So next week is the Yontiv of Shavuos that we just we're in the process of completing Sviras HaOmer, the days linking Yitzias Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Egypt, to the receiving of the Torah. So one of the institutions of Ezra HaSofer, Ezra the scribe, the Gemara tells us in Megillah, Lamed Aleph Amud Beis 31b, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Ezra Tikin Lahem Yisrael, Ezra instituted for the Jewish people, Sheyukorin Kola Shavatoras Kohanim Kodem Atzeres, which is Mishnah Torah Kodem Rosh Hashanah. Ezra instituted that twice a year before the Yom Tovim, before Rosh Hashanah. See, in Judaism, we have more than one New Year. We have four, but when we discussed two today. So before the New Year, we're familiar with the New Year, Judgment Day, Rosh Hashanah. But Shavuos is also known as Rosh Hashanah as well. So before the year ends, or before the year begins, Ezra instituted one should read the Tochacha, the portion of rebuke before these days. And that's why we read Parashas Bechukosai. This week it's a double parsha. We're catching up to Israel, but we're reading Bechukosai this week, before the holiday of Shavuos. And as well, before Rosh Hashanah, we read from Parashas Kisavo, which also deals with the Tochacha. And so the question then is, so the Gemara says, Atzeres Rosh Hashanah, but how do we know that Atzeres al Peres Elon? But but we understand Rosh Hashanah being the New Year, so the Gemara goes into why Shavuos is a New Year as well. So the commentators, the Gemara points out that how come then we should be reading it next week, because this year Shavuos falls out on Saturday night. So if we want to read the Tochacha before Shavuos, why don't we plan it next week? Just read Bahar this week, and read Bechukosai. And similarly, when we always read Kisavo a week before the week. How come we don't do it the week of Rosh Hashanah, we do it the week before? And the Gemara says because we don't want to end on a down note, that we don't want to end the year on curses, on Tocha, so let's get it in close proximity, but we always want to end on a positive. That's why Chazal are very makbid that the portion should end with a negative and stuff, that we always want to, it's always important, even when they have the Tochacha, it ends, and don't worry, there's Bris Avos, God will remember Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, so we always try to have a positive attitude at the end as well. So we read it before Shavuos, before Rosh Hashanah, but not the Shabbos before, the one before that, so we end off on a positive note. And then the Gemara goes on to explain that Ein Mafsikin B'Kolos, one cannot break up the Tochacha. When you're reading the Tochacha, when the Baal Koreh, the designated reader, is reading the Tochacha, even though on Shabbos, as the Mishnah tells us in Megillah, everyone agrees on Shabbos, one is permitted to have a Hosafa, or many Hosafas, even though the Minig Hagra and the Minig in Yeshivas is not to. The Mishnah says it's okay. So the Vilna Gaon says because it's different today. Maybe it was only okay when you had the Kohen getting the first bracha, everyone else called up doesn't make a blessing, and the one at the end makes a blessing. So you only had one bracha. You could make as many hosafas as you want. You're not adding extra brachas. Perhaps the Vilna Gaon says that every person today gets called up and makes their own bracha, so perhaps maybe he thinks it's better not to have hosafas because you're running into extra brachas. But either way, we agree with halacha that on Shabbos you can have a hosafa. So, however, when you're reading the Tochacha, you can't break up the Tochacha. How come? So the Gemara gives two reasons why not to break up the Tochacha. One is, it's inappropriate that God's in the middle of giving you rebuke, and you put God's on the pause. Press the pause button and say, "God, wait a second, let me finish. I got to finish watching the Ranger game. I got to go do my planting. I got to do this." it's inappropriate. You're in the middle of the tochacha, when God's giving you rebuke, you hear him out. That's the least, even Eliax, if you listen to his rebuke, but at least physically hear it. In fact, that's the famous Maisa with the Gera Rebbe. I think the Gera Rebbe, so his grandson was in yeshiva, and one morning he noticed his grandson wasn't at minyan. That's the advantage of having your grandfather running the yeshiva. He notices you every morning, when you come in, when you leave.
Sure.
So he went back to the room and he woke up his grandson and he started giving him musser. Like, come on, I'm sure he was positive, but come on, you have to work it, you have to wake up, etc. It goes on for 5, 10, 15 minutes. And then afterwards the grandson says, no, I daven vasikin. I daven sunrise. I already got up. I stayed up all night. I daven. Oh, he says, why didn't you tell me? He said, if you have a chance to get Musa from the Gera Rebbe, I want to hear it. That's like they say by Moshe Rabbeinu when he was rebuking the Chatzi Shevet for the people who wanted to live on Ever Yarden. If Moshe said, so the fact God's giving you Musa, don't interrupt it. That has a value in its own right. And the other answer, I believe it's from Reish Lakish, is because we don't want to add new brachas al prinios. In other words, that we don't want to. We know every time we call up someone else to an aliyah, we make a concluding blessing, and the person gets up, gets a new bracha. And we have a rule: we don't want to add blessings on prinios, on sad things, on punishment, because the Tochel we're reading is all about the onus, is all about the punishment. And therefore, that's why we don't break it up. That's why we have similar rules, not identical, but similar. Let's say there's a mitzvah in the Torah of V'hashev es hagezela, to return a lost object. That's also, but this is to return a stolen object. So the question is, so we know the general rule is, when we make a bracha, before we do a mitzvah, we make a bracha. So why don't we make a bracha on the mitzvah of returning a lost object? The answer is because since the only way to fulfill that mitzvah, that means an avera was done. That means it was a stolen object, so therefore we don't make a bracha. Like the Rambam writes, the Rambam Shita, regarding Rosh Hashanah by the shofar. There's a whole discussion in the Rishonim, in the earlier commentators. Let's say the only shofar in town is a stolen shofar. No one's condoning stealing, and the person who stole will still have to give an accounting. But bottom line, you're in shul, the only shofar sitting there is a stolen shofar. Are you permitted to use it, or is there any gain of it? Are you going to get the mitzvah? So some Rishonim say no. It's the classical principle of mitzvah haba ba'avera. Any mitzvah done to the means of an avera is a no-go. And not only don't you get the mitzvah, you violate geneva. So therefore, they say no. The Rambam shita is, it's shofar hagazo yatza. He's not recommending it, but if it's only shofar in town, one can fulfill the mitzvah with shofar hagazo. That gets into the Rambam shita, because the Rambam's opinion is, by shofar, the mitzvah isn't the tekiyah shofar, it's not the blowing of the shofar. Bruce isn't doing the mitzvah for me. We're doing the mitzvah ourselves. It's the shmiyah shofar. And since the mitzvah is the shmiyah, you can't steal sound. It's an intangible. And therefore, that's what the Rambam writes, even though I don't say mitzvah abba avera, and one is permitted to use a shofar gazo, no bracha. Because any mitzvah which is associated with an avera, we don't make a bracha. And so you don't make a, even though you can fulfill your mitzvah with a shofar gazo, but you don't make a bracha. And in fact, that's why it's a discussion, eating non-kosher food. So if you're eating non-kosher food because either
necessity.
Right, no. If you're eating non-kosher food because you don't care about kosher or some other reasons, then you would make a bracha. But it's a question, what about if you're eating non-kosher food? Because you have to. It's a life-threatening situation.
You say a bracha.
Right. So that's a discussion. To some Rishonim, say that you don't make a bracha. Normally you don't make a bracha, but some say So that's a discussion whether you make one in the case of necessity. So some poskim say that you can, but if it really bothers you so much, eating the pig, eating the chazir, you don't have to. So that, that's it there. But we find in many other examples. We'll conclude with one more. We know there's a biblical mitzvah of tshuva, according to the Ramban. So if there's a biblical mitzvah of tshuva, why don't we make a bracha? Asher kedesharo b'mitzvosav v'tzivenu mitzvahs tshuva lasos tshuva. And the answer is because what does tshuva mean? If I'm doing tshuva, that means I did something wrong, or at least I didn't lead up to my potential. Right. So anytime there's something associated with an aveira or something not good, we don't make a bracha. And so just to summarize, that's what we pointed out. Ezra instituted before Rosh Hashanah, and i.e. Rosh Hashanah of Shavuos is coming up to wake us up, and we read the Tochacha, we read the portion of rebuke, that we should, prepare appropriate for the upcoming holiday. So next week is the Yontiv of Shavuos, the Yontiv of Matan Torah. So we'll discuss some Inyani Shavuos. There's a Gemara in Psachim on Samach Ches Amud Beis 68b. The Gemara discusses a dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua in terms of how does one celebrate Yontiv in general, and then we'll see specifically about Shavuos. So the Gemara says, Titania, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Ein lo la'adam b'yontav ela o ochel v'shoseh o yoshe v'shoneh. A person has a choice in life. How does one want to celebrate Yontiv? Either he could celebrate it by eating and drinking, or he could celebrate it by sitting and learning. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Chalkeo. It's not either or. You got to do both. Chatzi lachila, chetzo lachila v'shtiya, v'chetzo l'beis hamedrash. Half eating and drinking, and half of the beis hamedrash. So it's a machlokas Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua on Pesach and Sukkot. How does one celebrate Yontiv? So Rabbi Eliezer says you have a choice. You can spend your day learning and davening, or you can spend your time eating, drinking, and sleeping. And Rabbi Yeshua says you have to do both. What is the issue here? What is the machlokas? From Rabbi Yochanan, v'shteihem mikra echad darshu. They both expounded on the same verse. Because of echad omer, one pasuk says, Asares Hashem Elokecha. It should be a day for God. Because of echad omer, Tzeres Yelachem. There's two verses in the Bible, a seemingly apparent contradiction. One pasuk says that Tzeres should be for your benefit, Yelachem. Another one says it should be for God. So how do you reconcile? So Rabbi Eliezer Omer, he says when the Torah gives you, so that's how, because so the Rabbi Eliezer says when the Torah gives you two choices, so it's O Kul Hashem, O Kul Lachem, you have a choice. And Yeshua says you have to go halfway. In fact, that's what Rav Yosef Engel points out. That he says that we have a principle, we say in the davening, what do you do when you have two psukim that seem to contradict one another? Bahashrishi v'yachriya beinehem. The third pasuk, third verse comes around and reconciles. So Rav Yosef Engel points out what this Gemara is addressing. What about when you don't have a third pasuk? Then what do you do? If you have a third verse to reconcile, then great. Let's see, you don't have to. That's the machlokas Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua. What do you do when you have two psukim which seem to be contradicting one another? So Rabbi Eliezer says either or, and Rabbi Yeshua says you do both. And it seems to be Rabbi Eliezer consistent with his view in the Gemara Beya, where on Yontiv he was giving a shiur and kept it going on, and the longer he gave the shiur, the more people walked out. So, and he started giving rebuke and stuff. But it was Rabbi Eliezer who felt you have a right to learn all day. So either way, that's the machlokas Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua in general. how do you spend your day? And we pass like Rabbi Yeshua, and we assume it applies to Shabbos as well. And in the specific order, we do Chatzi Lashem, B'Chatzi Lachem. As the Rambam gives the order, first we go and daven, then we eat the meal, daven, eat the meal, etc. It's not just that we split the day, but we split the day with a certain order and seder. And in fact, that's what the Vilna Gaon was makbid. He didn't like the minhag. Some had during the summer months, there's an issue of early Shabbos. So most do early Shabbos. They daven mincha before Plag HaMincha, and they daven Maya right after. So that is other challenges that's definitely permitted. But that's not what the Vilna Gaon was talking about. The Vilna Gaon was talking about some people, so instead of davening Ma'ariv early, so they go ahead and eat their meal, and then time they finish their meal, it's nighttime, and then they'll daven Ma'ariv. So that seems much better in terms of Kriyas Shema and Zmanim, but the Vilna Gaon thinks it's in violation of Chatzi Lashem v'Chatzi Lachem. One should first daven and then eat, but whatever your minhag is. So that's the Machlokas of Lezer Yeshua. So now the Gemara comes along and says, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Hakol Modim Ba'atzeres. True, there's a machlokes when it comes to the holiday of Pesach and Shavuos, Pesach and Sukkot. But Hakol Modim, but everybody agrees when it comes to the Yontav of Shavuos, to be inin nami lachem. That even Rabbi Elazar agrees you have to have a festive meal. My timer, what's the reason? Yom shaditna bo Torah, it's the day the Torah was given. And the Gemara goes on to say, Hakol modim b'Shabbos in Eden. Everyone agrees that on Shabbos you have to have a festive meal, you can't fast. My timer, v'charasa lo Shabbos oneg, you shall delight. You should proclaim the Shabbos a delight. And oneg means eating. And Amar Rav Yosef, Hakol modim the Purim, everyone agrees to Purim, you have to have a meal. Yemei Mishta v'Simcha Sivbei. So the Gemara says that when it comes to the Yontav Shavuos, even Rabbi Elazar is moded to Rabbi Yeshua that you have to have a festive meal. Why? Because the Gemara says the Yom Shenitna Bo Torah. So it's counterintuitive. I would have thought the opposite. If it's Yom Shenitna Bo Torah, that's the day Rabbi Yeshua should agree to Rabbi Elazar. You should be learning all day, all night, like how a minhag is. So what's the pshat in the Gemara? What's the explanation? That because it's a Yom Shenitna Bo Torah, that's the day I need a festive meal. So there's a famous Ramban at the end of Parshas Mishpatim. It says the Jewish people were they were eating and drinking, having one major party. And so some criticize the Bnei Yisrael, but others find the Ramban says they were doing the right thing. And in fact, there's the source that any time you have any type of accomplishment by Torah, you celebrate with a festive meal or some type of Masuda, some type of rejoicing. So they point out that's what they point out that the Ramban says by Matan Torah. In fact, and that's what they point out. That's the minhag we have by a siyum when someone finishes a certain amount of learning, a certain tractate, or maybe finishes Nach or some Seder HaMishnayos. So then you make a siyum. That's where it comes from. Any type of accomplishment with Torah, we make a siyum, a sudas hodah. So that's the Ramban. That anytime we have some accomplishment by Torah, we go ahead and we have to have a suda. And that's what the commentators explain. Also, api machshava, that what's the pshat yom shenitna bo Torah? I would have thought the opposite, but no, what's the Torah all about? In contrast to other religions, where when we talk about Kedoshim Tiyu, so perhaps their idea of Kedoshim Tiyu is to separate from all the people, go to a monastery, go to somewhere in the woods, away from, where do you reach the level of, the highest level of Kedusha? The highest level is by being alone, you have no distractions, and you can go ahead and reach your highest level. Judaism is just the opposite. In fact, we see Gedola Hachnasas Archa Mikabalas Pnei Hashchina. We see in the beginning of Parashas Vayera, God appeared to Avram, and God was doing Bikar Cholim, and he was talking to Avram. And lo and behold, in the middle of God's discussion with Abraham, he goes ahead and Abraham goes ahead and leaves and takes care of 3 guests who need some Achnosas Archim, who need some help. So the question is it a chutzpah? Did he do the right thing? How could Abraham leave God? So the Gemara says, no, we learn out from here a very important principle. Gedola hachnosas archem mikabal. Greater is the mitzvah of hachnosas archem, of entertaining guests, than it is speaking to the Shekhinah. In other words, you want to come closer to God. How do you actually know God? By imitating God. God sustains the people who need help, so too we help them out. And Avram, the Gemara tells us that it's greater. If you want to understand the Torah, understand God, and get closer, you do it through being with people, not just obviously there's a time of tefillah and and meditating with God, but we see that's not the essence of the Torah. Is not to do it alone. The point is to be able to give it over. In fact, it's actually founded in a positive sense by Avram Avinu. We find the reverse in a negative sense. That what's someone who speaks Lashon Hara or some other Aveira, and they get leprosy, and they're put chutz l'machane, they're thrown out of the camps, and they need time to think and reflect, contemplate. So the Gemara calls a mitzora is chashiv kames. A mitzora, someone who has leprosy, is equivalent to someone who's dead. So obviously it's only an agadatet. Hamalek, so what's the pshat? So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz in the Sichas Musar, he points out, because what's the essence of Judaism? It's all about giving. And you have to be able to give in order to live. Life is all about giving. And therefore, someone who, through a mitzvah, if you're living by your own, if you're all alone, you can't give to anyone. So therefore you're chashiv kames. It's almost like you're dead, because you're lacking a very primary part of life. And that's why it's counterintuitive, but if you ask who loves who more, do parents love their kids more, or do kids love their parents more? As a general rule, hopefully they both love each other, but parents love their kids more than kids love their parents. That sounds counterintuitive. I would have thought the opposite. The parents do everything for the kids, so the kids should appreciate the parents so much, while in general the parents give more to the kids than the kids give to the parents. And that's exactly the answer, because Ava, the root word is have, to give. And in Judaism recognizes the more you do for someone else, that's how you develop feelings for that person. So what greater moment? A parent, a Jewish mother who does everything for the child, so of course they have the ultimate love for the child. This isn't just drasha, because that's a halacha. The halacha is in Baba Machtera, someone breaks into your house, there's halacha in the Torah that if you're in danger, you're allowed to self-defense, you're allowed to kill the person before he kills you. However, it talks about in Ba Hashemesh, it's not a matter of what day or night, it's a matter of if the situation is clear, that if you know you're not in danger, you can, but if you think you are, you can. So there's a distinction made between if a parent breaks into a child's house and then So then we know he's not going to kill the child. So it's clear to us. But if a child breaks into a parent's home, it's not so clear. So we see this is manifested in the halacha. Getting back, that's the yisod here. I would have thought that Rabbi Yeshua would agree to Rabbi Eliezer here. Kol modim b'Shavuos, we should learn all night. We should do exclusively Atzaris Telachem because it's Yom Shinabot Torah. The answer is no. Yom Shinabot Torah is the whole purpose of life is to makadesh the chol, is to take the ordinary, take the mundane, and make it holy. And we take the physical, that everything is neutral. It's what we do with it in life, and that's why one has to satisfy the guf and the neshama, the physical body as well as the soul, and therefore one has to partake in physical pleasures as well as spiritual pleasures. Of course, everything in moderation and everything at the right time. But that's the yisod here of Yom Shenidna Bo Torah. It's a day where the Torah was given, and hence it's a day where we have to show it's the essence of life. That's why the Torah is given to Adam, and not to the angels, because the angels don't eat. So therefore the angels don't eat, obviously the Torah can't be for them. But the essence of the Torah is to take the everyday life and to make it holy, and that's our challenge of the Yantav Shavuos. And as the Gemara ended on the end of the Gemara Psachim, that Rabbi Yosef used to make a special holiday on Atzeres. He used to have a special piece to me, and he used to say, if not for the Yantav of Shavuos, Kama Ike Yosef Bashuk, I'd be another Joe in the Shuk. In other words, it's only because we have the Torah, and the Torah was given us, that distinguishes us from all the other people.